And what I thought I would start, but I found a sweet preface by Mani of God Brothers. I don't think I ever read the preface. We'll start off there, and then say our Avatar Meher Baba's Ki Jays. To you, my universal family and Meher Baba's timeless love, I present this bouquet of true stories. Walking in the garden of my childhood memories, I have plucked 45 stories for your pleasure, each bearing a singular fragrance. Mind you, this is the preface to all of her stories in God Brother. Because I'm writing about my childhood with Baba, it is natural that children will relate to this book in a special way. But my book is not limited to age. The ageless message these stories carry is for all who are children at heart. With beloved Baba's grace, writing these stories has been amazingly easy. Knowing that your eyes will look only into the heart of a story and not get distracted by questions about dates and places has helped a lot. As I like to point out, if something happened in 1927 and I think it happened in 1928, it doesn't change the happening itself, does it? I mention this because Baba books contradict each other in the matter of dates and things, and even the Mandali do. So when telling us stories in Mandali Hall, do so when telling stories in Mandali Hall. You may notice that some dates and details given by me in this book differ from the ones I give some time ago while recounting these same stories on tape or videotape. All I can say is that telling a story off the cuff and writing it down with forethought are very different things. I remember my teacher always telling the class in her very nasal voice, "Now, children, think before you ink." Well, writing down these stories in God Brother, I have done a lot of thinking as well as a good bit of research. That is to say, I have researched my old recollections and records to make sure this narrative is as accurate as possible. As for writing a preference, I was told it was a difficult thing to do, but this one has sailed along quite smoothly like a happy duck on a blue lake. It's been just like chatting with you, which I love doing. I can go on, but I mustn't because the stories in here are impatient to welcome you to their wonderful world of long ago. So how to stop? Let's do what we used to do on Mara's porch when the pilgrims sat around her, long past lunchtime. Let us all arise and, standing before Baba's portrait, call aloud 3 times. Okay, so this is where we say Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. And so, standing before Baba's portrait, say aloud, Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba
Baba Ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai. Avatar
Avatar
Meher
Meher
Baba
Baba Ki Jai.
Ki Jai. All right. Now, without further ado, I think I will share. It's actually a 20-minute video. Uh, it's so I don't know if anybody has anything pressing. uh, and my plan is to do the video, and then we'll do sharing after that. Um, it's Mani in 1988 at Mandali Hall, and she talks about the accident. She was in the car, um, and then she has some great descriptions of Oklahoma folks after when she was around in town. Um, so it's not. It sounds kind of grim, but it's not. It's not. Okay, so let me get that up. We'll start.
This saying, the act of God, reminds me, in 1952, during the accident in the States in Oklahoma, near Prague, uh, Elizabeth said that the last thing she remembered before the accident itself took place, when we saw the car racing towards us on the wrong side of the road, and we had just gone over a hill, and happened. So she said the last thing she saw was Baba's hand. Baba put out his hand and touched the windscreen, just a finger. And Baba's hand so huge. And this is the last thing she remembers. So later, when it was said that what saved us was the hand of God, strangest. This remark came not from Baba, the hand of God. Elizabeth said, yes, how she remembered that. And you see, this Baba had not only, there again, this accident also was not only ordained, but Baba had told us about it. Like he told us about the 1956 accident in a parabolic way, you know. But this was 20 years before this accident happened. Baba had given the date, the very date, except that instead of 52, it was 1932. Baba gave that date to Elizabeth. I don't want to tell the story again, it's a good story, but and that's when Elizabeth was with Baba in 1932, she'd gone to met Baba then. And Baba and the others were standing around. This was a Harman, yeah. And when Jean and Martin Ross were there with the blessing. So anyway, Elizabeth was down there, and some of the others, they saw some wildflowers before them, so they went out to pluck wildflowers. Elizabeth did not go along with the others. She stood by Baba. So Baba turns around to Elizabeth and says, don't you want to pluck a flower? And she said, no, Baba dear, I'd rather be with you. So then, when you give up something for Baba, this is so typical of Baba. When you give up something for Baba, Baba himself gives it to you. So Baba walked over himself, plucked a flower, and came and gave it to Elizabeth. And said, keep it. And remember this day. So she put it in a Bible. She stuck the flower in a Bible. And she wrote the date. 24th May? Was it the accident?
Yes.
24th May 1932. And she put it, and she wrote it, she closed. That was that. 20 years later, when, even then she didn't remember it at the time, but she remembered the day because when the accident happened, the insurance people would come in the hospital, private hospital, Dr. Burleson's hospital, and they kept on writing the name. Again and again, poor Elizabeth had to write the date, 24th May, 1952, 24th May, 1952, or filling out all the forms of the insurance people with that. That was that. Then, after we returned to India, and Elizabeth was then moving from Yukon Dunes, her parents' home, where Baba and we stayed after the accident. A beautiful place, bungalow, right in front of the ocean, and very well furnished. You know how parents had done it. So when we were there, and so then Elizabeth put her all into the center for Baba, the center that Baba directed her to find for him, to create for him. So she put all of herself and everything that she possessed into it. So then the Yukon Dunes house also was then sold, and she moved over and put the money also in the center, and she moved over into the center herself. So when the packing process was going on, and she brought it, all the books were brought down and things, and so now this has to be done, this has to be given away, this has to be taken to the center. She came across the Bible. She just opened it and suddenly saw the date, 24th May, 1932. Because of the date that she had written over and over again in the insurance form, she remembered the date, she said, and she was startled. But that's the date Baba said, remember this date, put it down, keep this flower. And she knew that it was no accident. Baba told her, this is my work. And therefore, to help in the happening of the accident, which Baba had ordained, planned, everything was was Mara, Meru, myself, Elizabeth, and Baba. Gohar was fortunately in another car following with Sarosh and the other. Rano, Gohar, Kitty, they were in the other car. So while we were going, Baba kept saying, faster, faster. I mean, that's not usually what Baba would do. And Elizabeth was one of those that obeyed without question, without asking, without even thinking why. So she would go faster, but still we could hear from the back, hurry, hurry, faster, faster. And I was seated on the seat with my legs up, leaning back. And the others were, seated in the normal way in the chair. I was sort of leaning back. And so when suddenly they shouted, Baba, Baba, they were shouting because they saw this car racing towards us as Elizabeth saw it. And Elizabeth saw that there was no way to avoid it. And the only thing in that quick way that she could think was, let the car go into this side where, because of the rains, it was soft earth, mud, slush. All right, there rather than here. Anyway, it hit, and that's how we went. But my point was, what are they shouting for? I was in the car. How can an accident ever happen? Nothing can happen, But of course it did happen. I realized later that, yes, Baba had said it in such a perfect way that he even let Elizabeth know so that Elizabeth would not feel later that it was by my hand. And then somebody had said that was, how could it be such a bad accident? And they're all saved and none of them have died. And then that's the person in the hospital said, it's the hand of God. And Elizabeth told us how just the hand of God.
Elizabeth also said it was the same hour also. It was
Same hour?
The flower, the exact same time.
Oh, that's wonderful. Really. Oh, the way Elizabeth would tell us stories, it didn't matter what she was saying. Such a beautiful way. And your father. When tell us that Elizabeth said it was even the same hour that the father was there.
Phyllis says she remembers looking at a map of where the route was to go across the United States, and she thought it was strange that it was only marked to Oklahoma. And this was before when Baba was leaving. It was a funny thing. She was looking at a map, and I remember her telling me that. That was unusual for her.
And then when we were leaving Prague, a beautiful little hospital, it somehow felt as if long ago that hospital was built, planned, and then later built just for this, just for Baba and his people to come, and the doctor and his wife and family, such a lovely family. So, especially the doctor's wife were very close to me, because I wasn't physically hurt enough to be accommodated in the hospital. I would come back and forth from the hotel. But she was very sweet to me. She was really helped tremendously. So as I was leaving, she said to me, she said, and she always called Mara the lady for some reason. And she said, when you go back, will you let me know how the lady is after you return? And I said, sure, Mrs. Ferguson, I'll let you know. I'll write you. I'll keep in touch with you. Then as I was leaving, a sudden thought came to me. I turned back and I said, tell me, Mrs. Ferguson, what exactly do you expect to happen to the lady? And she said, well, at the least, excruciating headaches, terrible headaches, at the least. And by Baba's grace, never had the headaches. And I can say that up to now. If anybody had headaches, it was me. So I wrote that to Mrs. Ferguson. I did. Her name is Julia. She is Julia. She's still alive. Dear lady. And I said, the lady doesn't have any headaches. And she again wrote back and said, it's God's miracle. because knowing the medical side of it, but then they said the least symptom would be that she would have very bad headaches.
Was Julia's prompting and everyone else's sort of the start of the family letters? Was that pretty much the start of the family letters with all the people asking how Baba was after the accident? Was this?
Oh, that was so beautiful. You know, we were strangers. The last place on the map of America we expected to stop and stay was Prague, Oklahoma. But so even when Sarosh, Adi, Gustaji, and myself would have to go to this little restaurant in the morning for breakfast and then come over to and stay at this little hotel. Oh, it was very difficult because this had happened. But otherwise, the people and the town and all, it was so lovely. They were so loving. And I would be stopped in the middle of the road because I had to walk back. And I'd walk with a stick because I'd hurt my knee. And I used to limp. And people would stop us and say, are you the people who were in the bash? And I said, yeah, we're the people who were in the bash. And will you give this to the gentleman? And they'd give me flowers. A bouquet of flowers or a vase, one of the vases that you can take home along with the flowers. And or messages asking, how is the gentleman? It's amazing. The love that was so spontaneously given for the people who were injured in the hospital, especially the gentlemen. Even the place where we ate one morning as we were leaving the table, the proprietor came with a beautiful big bunch of tulips, and that's for the gentleman. And when I would come by these places, the little children would be standing out to greet me. And usually you see in India, what happens in India is, no matter where we would be traveling, and Rana was always delighted to speak about it, is wherever I would be, any people who were in trouble, or any people who were crazy, they'd make a beeline for me. I'd attract them like a magnet. And Rana would say, birds of a feather, or something, so we love together. So, and also I guess children, because that's the but I remember all these children that would wait outside, there she's, and they'd also all want to know, I would tell them things. But one morning they waited 2 hours with a basket in which there were little puppies, because the doggy had given a litter of puppies just that morning, and they wanted to share it. And so when Miss, we've had this for so long, we're waiting all morning with this. They're such cute little things. And I felt like Baba, Baba would be petting them. So much love. The American people were amazing in any case, even before the accident happened, right from the start. As, even when I had to go to the dentist, or no matter who, even on the plane, the very first time I'd been going. Amazing what the American people gave us. So much friendship to absolute strangers. Huh? Then this was great fun. Now, when we were going, after the accident, when Baba, Mera went ahead, and of course Goher went with Baba, Mera, and Dr. Duncan, I think Rana went ahead to prepare the pontoons and all for us to come in. And Meru, myself, Gustaji, Adi, and Delia, faithful Delia, we were coming in this van along with the luggage. So Adi was driving. Now the luggage was at the back of us. After a while, the luggage would push us. So, sometimes we'd be riding like this, looking at the scenery like this, because the luggage had pushed us to this. So we would stop at some hotels, we would stop at little places here and there. And I didn't know anything about a drugstore. I saw a bit of America really at that time, traveling from Oklahoma back to Myrtle Beach by van. Adi was driving. Sarosh wasn't there. Meru, Gustaji, Delia, and myself and Adi driving and the like. So as we were going, we stopped to eat at the drugstore, a snack. And I thought drugstore meant you only gave drugs. aspirin, iodine, this type of thing. But so it was fascinating. As we went in, it was a longish room like that, which I thought a lot of piano stools, kind that were revolve, and then they go higher and lower. And this long counter, and all these piano stools were there. And there were some books being sold, and toothpaste, all kinds of things. And I was so fascinated watching. And I saw that Adi and Merun all sat on the stools. So I also sat on one of the piano stools. There was a very warm-hearted, motherly, homely lady behind the counter. And it seems she had been serving the others, but I was, so enchanted with the things I was looking at. So I missed some of the things. Suddenly I saw the lady lean over the counter and speak to me. And she said, because we had ordered hot dogs. Always order something we'd never had before, so you can always boast. So we'd ordered hot dogs. So the lady leans over and looks at me and said, "Do you want it all the way up?" All the way up. And then all those piano stools and all the people sitting on it. And I thought she meant, am I going to pay for them all? And I said, no, just me. She was so patient, so she leaned over further, talking like to a dumb child. She said, "Do you want it all the way up?" I get more bewildered. I don't know what to do. Mary leans over and whispers in my ear. She means, "Do you want onions, mustard, and chili, and all these peppers, this, that." I said, "Oh yes, all the way up, as high as you can go." Then I had this long bun that high with a lot of onions and things, and then it was such good. Next time we got someplace, because we didn't get good tea. And in those years, America hadn't caught on to tea drinking.
They still have.
The coffee. Now, Adi wanted tea. Adi was grumbling, and Delia, I can't understand. They don't even know how to make a cup of tea. We went to one place, and what they did was they would bring us tea in cups and saucers. Not tea, water. They would bring hot water and place these cups and saucers before us. And then, by the time it's brought to us, it's gone warm. It's not boiling hot anymore. And then the waitress would go and bring us these tea bags. And then you had to go and dip, till it dissolved. By the time it's cold, and it's not really much tea. And Adi was grumbling in Gujarati, Marathi, English, Hindi, and this, and Julia was saying, "This is terrible. I mean, I can't believe a civilized nation like that." And so then what we did was, next time I had a wonderful idea. When the waiters came, we ordered a kettle of boiling water. Kettle of boiling water. Boiling water. She went and got a kettle of boiling water. Then, after she placed the kettle on the table, Adi says, 12 tea bags. She goes and brings them on a plate. Then the job is mine. Just open the lid a little bit, put all the bags one by one. Put. I almost got scolded, but I did my duty. And then we closed everything. Really good tea. And then we were so happy. But before that, what had happened was, sometimes we didn't know where we'd get a cup of tea at all. So somebody said, here's this place, and we can try. So when we went and asked the lady, do you serve tea? Well, she said, I keep tea for truck drivers with ulcers. And I said, well, we're not truck drivers, and we don't have ulcers, but ma'am, we'd be very happy to have a cup of tea. Sure, you're welcome. And then she gave us tea and things like that, Very lovely. And then the fruit juices. That was marvelous. Wherever we went, we saw these big vases, with the orange juice in it, and that's the second thing I loved in America. Apart from Baba and Baba lovers, as America, the people and then the juices. I'm rather lazy with peeling the fruits and but whenever that comes in a juice form, I just love it. So I said, if I had to draw about my visit to America, apart from the people, I'd draw beautiful mountains and have waterfalls on each mountain. One waterfall would be orange juice waterfall, one would be apple juice waterfall, one would be prune juice waterfall, and all these waterfalls coming from mountains. That's what Elizabeth had for us in the guest house. You know the guest house where it is, it was like a fairy house, a cottage out of a fairy tale for us. When we went there, so beautifully arranged with so much love and heart, and the beauty of it. You know, the pine, the ponderosa pine we were told is made of. It's sort of a pinkish glow, and the fragrance of the pine as we went from room to room, a little dining room where Bessie worked for Elizabeth in a black and nice and motherly and a lovely place, lovely person. And she would cook for us and see to us. And so there was this little cupboard in the wall, and when we opened it, because we were like little children in a fairy tale, you know, we'd open and say, what's in here? Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. And so we opened the wall cupboard, and there were the prune juice bottles, and everything that you could possibly want to make yourself comfortable if you even had a little thirst or a little hunger, you know, everything so beautifully done. And Bessie was marvelous. At that time, we had a telephone that connected the cabins at the center, the kind that you want, like a gramophone that we used to have here. That's where Baba's gesture for a gramophone or for music was this. So this is a gramophone, and gramophone only gives music, so for music also you would do this. So the phones were like this. I used to call it Bessie. I should call Bessie, say, the coffee grinder. I called the telephone the coffee grinder, and Bessie would be like, Miss Molly, you's going to be the death of me someday. And so we do that. So when we sometimes we got intermixed. The one, it so happened that Kitty thought she was talking to me. I thought I was talking to Margaret, and we were all on the line, and Kitty never caught on that when Kitty would ask a question, and instead of Margaret answering, I would answer, and of course I did the wrong answer. Oh, well, you really think so, Margaret? I never gave Margaret a chance. At last I heard Margaret say, Manny, will you please stop me? I don't think they have that anymore, no?
No.
Yeah. Oh, those coffee grinders are good.
Tell them about your encounter for a nickel for coffee or something like that.
Huh?
You wanted a cup of coffee soon after the accident and you didn't have money.
Yeah. You see, when the accident happened, I was splashed all over, more than splashed. I was full of a lot of mud, you know, what do you call it, chica?
Yeah.
Mud.
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 That's right. And blood. Papa's blood, Mara's blood. And no shoes, everything is gone. Just a little bit of mine on the floor from here. So, at the time, before even God came along, I can be very good in crisis. I mean, I somehow don't like showing. So any even news or anything shocking would be there. Baba's gift to me is such that it doesn't show. I don't allow it to show. I can manage not to show. It's only afterwards, when everything is in its place, everything has been attended to, then I just crumble up completely. To myself, by myself, nothing to do with anybody else. The same thing happened here. So when Dora came, Dora was so shocked. She was just, woken up. I said, Dora, not a cheer. This is not the time for cheers. Work to do. We've got to do this, we've got to do that, All this was, everything was done, and the doctors were attending to it. And something extraordinarily beautiful happened to Mara. Mara says that while she was there, next to me, at the back of the car, Baba was in front with Elizabeth. So when I blanked out for a moment when the accident happened. When I came to, I saw Elizabeth in the front, slumped over the wheel, and I thought she was dead. And I alone was in the car. The rest had all been thrown out, flung out. I suppose because of but I had what is known as a whiplash so badly because when the accident happened, I jerked forward from that position right in the front. And that's so I blanked out for a moment. When I woke up, came to, I saw this, and then I walked out. I said, my God, what's happened? So I thought Elizabeth was dead. And I never forget, she had a beautiful little hat, a sort of a cloak, is that what you call it? Yeah? With a little veil, and very smart, and I haven't seen Elizabeth wear that kind of hat before. And of all the silly things, I remember that hat had so much blood on it. Everything had been flung out, including the luggage and things that were at the back of the window and all. So,
Then what happened?
So then, a beautiful thing happened with Mara was she was seated. She saw herself still seated in the back seat of the car, although she was flung out and badly hurt. She saw herself there, and Baba still seated in the front seat. To this day, she will tell you that. And she said she saw Baba turn round and said, "How are you, Mara? Are you hurt much?" And she says she put her hand over her forehead, where she thought was a little wound, but she didn't want Baba to worry about it. So she was putting her hand over it to show that it wasn't much. And she told Baba, "Not much, Baba, just a little hurt." But it's nothing like that happened. She was badly hurt here, and she was thrown out, flung out, so was Baba. So she doesn't remember anything. I saw it all. And for me, my God, nothing happened to me. And that all should happen to Baba and Mara. Mara was a little hurt. I was even less hurt. Baba and Mara got the brunt of it. Then comes Gaurav. So all this, this is not the time for tears. We have work to do. Come on, Gaurav. This, that, Rana. And oh, wow, it was so shaky. We were all right. So then we were taken to the hospital. I'm pleading with the doctor, please see to the lady, please see to the lady as soon as possible. There was it, but Baba he saw too. And then in the end, when sort of everything was more or less settled, that where are we to stay? No motel was yet looked into. There was no time for anything. We were just in a strange place and not knowing anything. And so Sarosh took over that part, but he took Delia, poor Delia, and myself to this little room somewhere. I don't know how we found it. We don't know anything. All I know is we got there. And poor Delia, because she was so upset with seeing all this and happening, she was also with Gohar and Sarosh's car. You must have heard the story how Baba told at the start, keep together, keep me in sight. So I won't repeat that. So poor Delia was so upset that it upset her bladder. She has a weakness there too, and so poor dear, she was all the time tripping, getting up, going into the bathroom. Nothing. We had nothing, and she was resting. But so I was with myself. That's when I went into prison. Because Sarosh went out to look for a motel. I just cried and cried. I didn't know I had so many tears. I just sobbed till I was completely empty. And then I took hold of myself. Well, now that part's done. Now we have we have to play our part. But I needed a question. I thought I would, pass out. I needed something to warm me up. I was shivering inside. So I said, I need a cup of coffee from where? What do I know? So I said, yes, ma'am. All I got to do is go out. And then I just ask any house, get to some house, and any family would be very happy to give me a cup of coffee. So I went out and started walking. And I was amazed to find this whole street that I went by, it seemed they'd all gone out of town. All the doors were shut. All the blinds were down at the windows. It's so opposite of what you see in India. Life is so much on the streets. Everybody's doors are open. Children are rushing in and out. Goats, hens, whatever. The windows are open. You hear screaming, shouting, and life. Very vibrant. And here, it was just like you would see when the whole town had gone for a holiday. They just left town. It had all gone away. And I said, but I thought, now I've come to a house where it's open. No. So I thought, it's no good my going on street after street like that. I better knock at the door. So I knocked at one door. No reply. I knocked again. Very cautiously, the door was open. An inch and a half. I could just see a very shriveled face, an old man, looked at me and quickly shut the door. Now what do I do? So I go a couple of doors more. Again I knock. This time the door opened, and it was a woman, a young woman, very nice. And she looked at me, and then she saw I was counseless of God, of Ram, of the Avatar.
Okay, I just wanted to share a couple of postcards that really bring out Mani's little girl innocence and her enthusiasm. Just the pictures and how she always makes comments that have something to do with the postcards, and a couple of little drawings of hers. So I want to start with this one here, and it's just a duck, you see? Well, let me see. There's the duck. You see the duck? There's the duck looking through the fence. And Mani says, I'm also quacking Jai Baba, Al, in this picture and flapping lots of love in Darling Baba to his dear Buttonwala. Now, I don't know if you notice here, but in the postcard itself, by my fingers, a little drawing that Baba made of her, Mani made of herself. And she not only has always this big smile, but for some reason, her arms really stretch out as if she's stretching across the sea to give you a big hug. And that's more easily seen in this postcard here. You see that? That's another of her drawing there. But you see how long her arms are? And the postcard itself, some of you will remember we had Baba stamps in those days. So she would put a Baba stamp along with the drawing there. Now here's another one of Minnie Mouse. There you go. That does really remind me of Mani. But Mani in this one says, you can see for yourself. I'm as pleased as can be to have your latest batch of Baba buttons. Okay, and then I just will read one paragraph from a letter. Oh, I forgot to mention those, but this one here was from July of 1980. The other one was 93. This is 87, and Mani says, Dear Al, you've done it again, Buttonwala. The bountiful packets of Baba buttons and photo sheets, very happily received here. As I spread them all over my desk, I had a lovely walk down memory lane, from picture to picture. Mara is also delighted to have these special Baba images to present to Baba lovers. So we are indeed happy with your offer to make more. And here is her letterhead. As you can see, I'll put it up here. See, that's her letterhead there with a little frog typing. And she says, this last Baba batch from your heart is first class. Like other Baba lovers, they come in different sizes and varieties. I like the diversity and individuality of the selection, which is bright and cheerful and will just suit our Baba pilgrims' diverse taste. I did want to mention that I'm looking at Ferris Day Azad's little picture of an angel. And the reason the way I got started with these Baba buttons is that in 1977, I was a member of the Foundation Faith of God that gave angel readings, and we made angel buttons. So I must have thought, well, angel buttons are good, but Baba buttons are better. So I started making Baba buttons. And on my first trip to India in 1979, at the end of 79, I took over the first machine, which was a 2 5/8 button machine, along with several hundred Baba buttons that I made and several hundred to be made. And maybe 10 years later, I brought another machine, which was smaller, 1 5/8. But anyway, I didn't start going to India regularly till 1994. So for those 15 years or so, I would just always send Baba buttons with members of the DC group that were going to India, and Monty never failed to send me a postcard or a letter in response. And I have to say that Baba really had his hand in this, because at least 15 trips people made taking Baba buttons over. Not once did anybody have any problem. And I remember once myself, I was at the customs, and there were 2 officers. So I went up to them. I said, "Excuse me, I just want to make sure. I have a couple hundred Baba buttons I'm taking in. Should I declare them?" And the officer says, "Well, why don't you ask this gentleman here? He's in charge of customs." And he said, "Look, you don't have to declare the Baba buttons. You don't even have to go through customs. Just tell him I sent you through." So he waved me on. And my thought always was that in India, they take such pride in their spiritual masters that they either knew who Baba was, or if they didn't know who Baba was, they were too embarrassed to admit that they didn't know who he was. So we never had any problems with those buttons at all. Anyway, I did send a little post of a
Al,
letter that I got from Bound. Am I taking too much time?
I think Betty is
I'll
back. Why
finish.
don't you save it for the chat session? That would be really sweet. We want to hear more.
Oh, this
Okay, I
is-
did want to share this letter from Bound too that has something to do with Monty, and I'll share that later on
Thank
for
you.
the chat section. But thank you for listening so far.
Oh, thanks so much for picking up the ball, Al. I really appreciate it. I just want to explain that video. It was at that point it was spliced with another event. It was a bad splice, and all I meant to do was just stop it there. I so recommend looking at that video, and I put the link down below. Erich talks about being arrested for being a drunk driver in the Satara accident case. Really interesting video. And I'm sorry, I'm just so inept. I couldn't figure out how to get out of there. Thank you so much, Al and Ferris Day, for picking it up. Um, and I don't see any other hands. So if you wanted to continue, Al,
I'm almost finished. I'm
okay.
almost finished. But I did want to point out this letterhead that Monty had. You see her name's on there. You see Monty right here, Monty, Mani, above the frog. Can you see that?
Yeah.
In any case, anytime she sent a letter or postcard, she always made a comment as to what the picture pertained to, whether it was Minnie the Mouse or the duck or this or that or the other. But I did want to share this. I already posted the entries in Glimpses of the God-Man, Volume 2 and Volume 4, where Bal talks about Baba's meeting with Swami Sivananda. And I had wrote him a letter, and this is Bal's response to me. He says, "Jai Baba, many loving thanks for remembering beloved Baba's meeting with Swami Sivananda. Please note that for avoiding any controversy or correspondence, I have not mentioned Swami Sivananda's name. Beloved Baba also had casually instructed it that way." So anyway, those entries that I made were it's a wonderful story for those of you who haven't heard it, and it does involve Balna too. I've told it before, and I won't tell it now, but it's just a very, very beautiful story. But in any case, I think Bal Natu in the early 90s, right around the time that might have been after Monty passed away, but I think in his appreciation for my relationship with Monty, gave me this beautiful shawl. And he said the nicest thing to me. He said, "Al, every time I see you, it reminds me of Monty." And I'll close on that note. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's fabulous. Oh, anyone else want to share? I have a little story. We were there in '87. That film was taken in '88. Our family was there. We have a daughter named Shireen. So Monty called her Little Mummy. um, so that was sweet. But we were there for 6 weeks. Uh, so, and when it came time to go, the taxi was there. There were five of us, Dave and I, and three kids. Three of our five were there. And I just wanted to, people were sitting around in Mandali Hall, just like you saw in the video. Somebody was speaking and and I just wanted to peek in the door and, wave goodbye. Uh, and Mani, she saw me, she turned around, she said, "Oh, uh, uh, I guess she hadn't realized we were leaving, or anyway, that's what she did. She turned around, she said, "Oh," so she got up, and and then everybody else in the hall everybody came out. It was amazing. And Ball Natu had set up some kind of a thing for the sun wrapped around his head. It was September. Um, we've got pictures, and I'll be darned if I can't put my hands on them. But uh, so they all came out. Everybody came out to say goodbye, which just floored me. I hadn't meant for that to happen. And so they all came out to say goodbye. That's all. And that was because Monty started it. She got up and to say goodbye. So and Michelle and or Marvin, one of you guys?
Yeah.
Hi.
Do you want to sit?
Sure. Oh.
No, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. Just don't worry about me.
All right. Anyhow, yeah.
You have two really good stories.
I have two stories about Monty. I'll do the other one first, or the other one. Period. Anyhow, I was going to Mandali Hall and sitting there listening to all the stories of all the pilgrims, and Erich was there speaking. This is in '90, just after I think it was February and March, and then the Pilgrim Center was going to close that day. And it was very crowded. There was a lot of pilgrims there. And all of a sudden, Monty came in and told some stories, and Alaba walked through and made some sort of announcement that he's never going to come to the United States again. And everybody was just stone, just floored with Alaba. And for some reason, I said to the group, I said, well, you don't have to worry because Baba will go to the United States for you. and then I told the story, and I guess Mani loved the story. And after it, we were outside on the porch, and I was talking to Alaba. I had talked to Alaba quite a bit during the trip about my own particular circumstances. And he was very upset, extremely upset. And he didn't really want to talk about my problems anymore. He wanted to talk about his problem. So I listened. And his problem was that all these pilgrims wouldn't leave. We're tired. We want to just rest. And nobody wants to leave. And I said, well, this is the last day, So we're kind of like, trying to make connections. And And he says, yes, but there's time to leave, and somebody's got to get out of here and get this crowd out of here. And I said to Oliver, and I don't know where this came from, I said, okay, I'll do it. But first, can I just say goodbye to Erich? And so I went over and I said goodbye to Erich, and then I walked away from the crowd to get onto the bus. And I don't know why, but everyone followed me. All the pilgrims marched onto the bus. And I sat at the back of the bus and I started to cry. And everyone got on the bus, and the whole bus was just jam-packed with pilgrims. And then Monty came out and said, where's Marvin Schaefer? So I had to climb over all these pilgrims to get off the bus to say something to Monty. I didn't even know what she wanted or anything. And she just smiled and she gave me Baba's hair. And then she said, you can go now. And I climbed back over all the other pilgrims and went to my seat in the back of the bus. Jai Baba.
Yeah. Jai Baba.
You know,
Hey, want more stories or what?
we have another hand up. Then yeah, maybe
Okay,
come.
fine. Let somebody else take.
Ron.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
about one time in Mandali Hall, Mani decided to tell a few jokes because she loved entertainment and was very entertaining herself, as those of you who were ever with her would know, and reading about all the various plays and things that she did. So great storyteller, great joke teller. So I'm going to try to tell the one that I remember the best that she told had to do with these at the gates of heaven. And through the gates comes this minister who is met by Saint Peter, right? So he's talking to him and said, we're really happy to have you here. And he said, here's a little a stick for you and this robe made of cotton. He says, welcome to heaven. So he goes in, and right behind him is this cab driver from India. And St. Peter says, oh, you've come. You're here now. He says, so you were that cab driver from India that we were expecting. He says, yes. He says, well, here's your silk robes and your golden staff. Come right in. Well, the minister who was standing there turned around and he came back to St. Peter and says, excuse me, but I was wondering why this cab driver got a silk robe and a golden staff, and I just got this stick and a cotton cloth here. He says, I was a man of God. He says, so why is that? He says, well, when you gave your sermons, people slept, you put people to sleep. When this fellow drove in India, he had his passengers praying to God.
Oh, that's great. Monty told that joke?
Yes,
Ron?
Monty told that joke.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she told it exactly that way, but it was something like that.
Uh, did you have any special times with? I remember you saying about one. We talked about it last time you were on here about.
Yeah, well, I won't tell that one because I told it last time, but I will. I do. There's this one thing that I've remembered since 1973, and I've never seen it written in any of Baba's literature. But I was sitting there in front of Mandali Hall there with the. I'm not sure who else was there. Just a few people gathered around Monty, and she said something I thought was rather profound. That's why I remember it till this day and kind of try to live by it and appreciate it. And she said that Baba had given them 3 keys to take with them on the spiritual path. And the 3 keys were honesty, humility, and humor. And I like to share that whenever it seems
Very nice.
useful to someone. And so I thought this might be a good time. If anybody has ever heard Monty say that before, I would love to know. Make sure I have it right or I wasn't dreaming it. J. Baba Tulio.
Thanks, Ron. I guess you're up again, Marvin.
Hi, J. Bob. It's actually me. I wanted to, the joke Ron told. I don't know if I was on the porch or we were just talking with Lonnie and talking about my trip through the Gats and the trucks and the driver playing chicken. And I was like, the horn, okay, please. And she says, ah, yes, that is how Baba, you learn to take Baba's name. The travel through the Gats makes you go, oh, Baba. So that's, it was beautiful. I only met her one time in 95, 96, and it was beautiful. And Go Hair gave me this beautiful scarf of hers that, somebody had a photograph with her and she was wearing it. But it doesn't matter. But Jay Baba what a wonderful, funny, most brilliant woman I've ever met in my entire life. And so feeling so blessed. Jay Baba.
Marvin, did you have more story?
He's got a good one.
Sure. I'll tell the story about when I first came to Mehrabad. I was kind of hanging out, and there were very few pilgrims there when I first came, and I was extremely new to Baba, so there weren't many pilgrims on the center at that time.
Were they all in Madison? No.
I don't know where they were, but anyhow, I was wandering around, and at the time it felt like I was wandering around through the desert because there was no green life there at all. It was just a lot of tombs and that sort of thing. And anyhow, I was doing everything by walking, not taking transportation or anything. So I walked over to the Samadhi, and there was, again, no one there except for Nanakare. Nanakare was guarding the tomb. And when he saw me approach, he was very nice and, offered me some prasad to go in. And then afterwards, I was sitting in the portico, just enjoying the solace. And Nanakare came up to me and said, would you mind if I allowed you to watch the Samadhi? I have to do something and I'll be right back. And so I just sat there and I said, okay, what do you need me to do? And he said, well, just if somebody comes, and there won't be anybody coming because it's you know. But if somebody comes, you just offer them some prasad, and then
Excuse me, Marvin.
huh?
We're not. It's hard to see you with that. I wonder if you could
Oh,
just turn the light up. It's the light. Oh,
I'll turn the light.
And,
that's
and,
thank you.
sorry.
Okay, great.
and,
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay.
Okay,
and
so
Marvin,
yeah. Hello.
Just tell the story.
Oh,
Okay,
you're muted. You're
Okay.
muted, Jeff.
I'm muted.
That's okay.
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 And anyhow, so I stood up to do my job, and I was at the back of the portico and waiting, and maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds elapsed, and all of a sudden, a blue car, a Chevrolet, came up, an old one, and out of it piled 5 women who I didn't know. I didn't know who they were at all. I mean, I was brand new to Baba, maybe a month, 2 months. And they all walked into the tomb. So I stood there deliberating whether I should give them 2 prasad or 3, and decided when Mani came out. The 5 women were Mani, Gohair, oh my gosh, Meru, Katie, Arnavas. Anyhow, when they came out, or at least they came out one at a time, Mani was first. I offered her some prasad, and I said, and I gave her a hug, and I said, "Welcome home." And she thought that was hilarious, and she turned around and she said, "Did you hear what he just said? He told us welcome home." And then all 5 of them got back in the car and drove away, and then
They were laughing all the way.
laughing, yeah, the whole time. And then of course Nanak here came and saved me from more disaster. Anyhow, it was a great time. Yeah, it was really beautiful to spend that amount of time with Baba's family, and now I continue to. That's great. Jai
You
Baba.
must have had a special place in her heart for you, Marvin. That's really nice to hear those stories.
Yeah. Well, I told her a very interesting story that happened to me on my way to Mirabat, in that old Mandali meeting, about how Baba does his own work. He comes to us whenever we need him. So, huh?
Maybe if we have time, there are a couple
Yeah,
of.
that's a
Okay,
long
I'll
story.
come back to you and get that story. Okay.
Wait, Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Saturday morning.
Um, let's see. Jim has raised his hand, and then Debbie is also waiting. Debbie Nardine. So okay.
Hey, Baba.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
A couple of incidences just came to mind with Mani. The first one was in 1975, the first time I went to India. And in the book that Heather Nadell wrote about Mani called The Joyous Path, there's a photo in there, and don't ask me where the photo is in the book, but there's a photo of Mani wearing one of Dr. Donkin's hats. And she looks like a gangster, sitting behind her desk. And the reason why I think I'm the one that took that picture. And the reason why is because in 1975, the first time I went, I think it was the first trip to Marizod, on the way, we stopped in the trust, and I, went running in and started talking to Monty, and she looks at me and goes, "Where's your hat?" And I said, "I don't have a hat." She goes, "Oh, you have to have a hat. This is the sun's the most direct here than anywhere else in the world. You have to have a hat. Here, take this hat. This is Dr. Donkin's hat." And so, I went out to Marizon on the bus, and after lunch, I walked up Seclusion Hill with Dr. Donkin's hat. And the reason why it was so important is because I don't want to get into the long story of this, but when I was 7 years old, I had a dream of being on top of this hill, and there were angels. There's a whole story to it. And when I was up on Seclusion Hill, the remembrance of this dream came, and it was like a freight train. It was just like, smacked me in the face. It was a dream. I was 21 at the time when I went up to Seclusion Hill for the first time. And this dream was this incident. And it was like a gift from Baba. And of course, the hat was in there in that dream. So there's a story to the hat, behind the thing. And so that was one incident that brought back to mind. And it was very funny giving her the hat back in the trust office. And she put it on and she sat at her desk and started acting like a gangster, with the hat on. And I took a picture of it, So that was the first incident. And another incident came to mind. I think I went back in 1983. And it was and this is like Baba saying, "Oh, and you want to come here? You want to be with the Baba?" Oh, okay. It was an exhausting trip to India, and I remember we finally went from Pune to the trust office in Nagar, and I was in a taxi, and literally we pulled into the trust office, and we pulled up to the bookstore part, and I literally had the back door open and my foot had not touched the ground yet. And Monty was there, if I remember correctly, grabbing me by the arm and going, "Oh, quick, there's this so-and-so in the room. He can't get off the cot. You've got to adjust him right now. He's got a flight tonight out of Bombay. You've got to do this right now." And it was an absolute total shock. It just totally put me right out. I don't remember who it was or anything, but apparently what had happened is this person had participated in one of Gary Kleiner's famous volleyball wars at the MPC, and really did a number on his back. And I was doing chiropractic, so I don't know how she remembered that, but that's what happened. So that's my 2 cents
Yep.
worth. Was that you, Jeff?
No.
No.
We will now have Debbie, who's been waiting, and then Jeff. We'll get to you.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to see you. And to be thinking about, Mani. There was no one like her, of course. And there's no one like any of the Mandali. They're all so unique and amazing. When I first met Mani, she said, "Oh, but this can't be your first trip. It seems like we've already met. It seems like I already know you." And then over the years, I would notice that almost everybody would get that first time welcome from Mani, because she was truly the hostess with the mostest, and such charm, as you all know, and the sense of humor. And I want to remember those 3 H's that Ron said. I hope I'm remembering now: humility, honesty, and humor, right? Let me see if I could find, yeah, there he is. He gave me the okay, because I want to share that with Peter tonight when he gets home. So I just will share a few little vignettes. I got to work with Mani in the trust office because Peter and I were living in the trust compound. And it was such a joy just to be around her. Basically, I worked with Balna too, but once in a while she'd go on vacation. I mean, she wouldn't go on vacation, but the person that was usually her right-hand woman, Heather, she would be out of town or something. And so then I would get to have that spot. And it was so much fun, but also challenging because Monty would be creating, and you know what a wonderful creative writer she is when Betty read some of that to begin with today. But so she would already be kind of making up her letter or whatever it was in her head. And she would talk to the person she's dictating it to, because we would take it on this old typewriter, as if we already heard the first part that was up here, you know. And so I never wanted to say, Monty, what are you talking about? I never would want to say that. So I would say, let me see. And literally it was like a guessing game, and was very much fun because usually you could figure out what she was trying to say by the context, of course. And she would always include little doodly things. You know, we would get to type up her correspondence, but then she would put her hand touch beautiful artwork on it. And you know how wonderful that was. Well, I wanted to tell about one time we all would eat lunch with her then. She came like 2 or 3 days a week. I'm talking fast just so I get these in. I didn't have a strong cup of coffee. I'm just excited to be here, okay? So she would come into the lunchroom where we all were seated, and Balna too, and usually a bunch of women, not Eric. He would never eat lunch with us. He skipped lunch. So we were there, and she just loved to tell stories, and she particularly liked to tell stories about Mirabai. And I only remember one hook or punchline from one of those songs, which was something like, you know, because Mira was imprisoned by her prince husband, or somebody who knows the story could, you know, stretch that out. But you could imprison me. This is Mira talking. You could put me in prison, but nobody can stop me from thinking what I want to think, from remembering my Lord. You know, that was not the poetic way to say it, but you get the tip. And she would just be so cheerful, and we'd be having those lunches, and it was a delight to see that she enjoyed eating. On special occasions, she would order Dunsock from the Parsi Argyari in the middle of Ahmednagar. Once I had to go help pick it up, and that woman who cooked it cooked on like a 3-foot counter and a tiny pump-up stove, and made the best Parsi food, I swear. So then at the end of a meal, if we're all there with Mani, she would do this. She would be licking her bowl, and then she would say, there, you see, nothing goes to waste. And you could even put it back on the shelf. Of course, that's her joking with us. But she, of course, wouldn't let anything go to waste. And the last little vignette I'll tell is something that really touched me deeply. When I was looking for a picture of Monty this morning to put out in a little post I put on Facebook, I saw the picture of Monty, and you could Google it too, where she's sitting in front of the map of the world, where she used to sit in the trust office. So she was the chairman, and she sat, her desk had the wall behind her and the map of the world. And then there was also above the map of the world, there was a big picture of Baba. I can't remember which one. So one time, I don't know how the subject came up, and it wasn't just to me, it was to a couple of people, I think. We were just sitting there, maybe waiting for our next assignments. She said, you know, people would come to me and they would be asking me so much advice, even marital advice. She says, what do I know about any of that? But how I answer is that I apply Baba to every situation. I don't need to know, I'm paraphrasing, of course, I don't need to know all the details, but I don't need to know about a marriage or a divorce or this or that. All I need to do then is apply Baba to whatever my answer is. After all, this is the part I love so much. Imagine that I'm Mani, and there's this wall behind me, and you are me and a couple other people listening to her. So then she'll say, but after all, I've got my back to the world. She didn't bat an eye. She didn't turn around like this. Like the best actress in the world, she kept her face forward. I've got my back to the world. But then she pointed up high towards his picture on top of the world. But he's on top of the world. So I thought, that's Mani in a nutshell. I got my back to the world, He's on top of the world, and I apply Baba to everything. And with that, my friends, I rest my case. Hey, Baba.
That was wonderful, Debbie. Okay, Jeff, you're up. I just muted you, sorry.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of wonderful things you can say about Mani. I mean, just being with her was so absorbing, you could totally forget yourself. But I have a few quotes from Mani that you might enjoy. This one, well, there was one day in the trust office where it was very busy, and she was seeing an accountant. She was the chairman of the trust, and she was seeing, people and accountants and all of that. And at one point, she kind of got up and went in the other room and splashed some water on her face, and she came back just came back and wiped her face. And then she said, this is what she said. People think Meher Baba is peace and quiet. They're wrong. Baba is, even if you are going to pieces, keep quiet. So I have a couple of more. Ooh, whoopsie daisy. Hey, I got to make sure I get here. Okay. This is one is very good for Mani. It is important for each of us who love Baba to be with Baba. Baba is with us every second, but it becomes complete when we are with him. Yeah, a little. Okay. Here's another one that Mani would quote this line. It tells you a lot about Mani. I prayed to you for strength to carry out your work. You gave me weakness, so I would depend on you. I mean, imagine all those years with Baba, and this is what she came to. I prayed to you for strength to carry out your work. You gave me weakness, so I would depend on you. And one last one. It was a young man at the last darshan, and in 1969, and after a loving exchange with Mani, he said, "Did Baba ever cry?" Mani looked at him very thoughtfully and replied, "Baba cried when he thought of those of his lovers who couldn't experience his love for them." Baba cried when he thought of those of his lovers who couldn't experience his love for them. So that's I could share some stories, but there are others.
How about it, folks? I don't see any hands. Why don't you just go ahead and share? Oops, there we go, Marilyn. All right.
I'm gonna help
That was really so sweet, everybody sharing. And I love the Mani quotes that Jeff just gave us. Very touching. I'm going to see what I should share about Mani. When I was in India, I think there was one time I was walking around the garden and I was looking for Mani. I wanted to talk to her. I didn't see her for a while, and then all of a sudden she just appears. She's like coming from behind. I don't know where. I don't remember, but she's just there. I said, "Oh," I go like this. "Oh, I was looking for you, Mani." And what does she says to me? We just said something. I don't remember exactly what the words were. But then after we finished, she said, "Where are you going now?" I said, "I'm going to go to Baba's room," which was just a little ways down. And she said to me, "Oh, so you have a date with Baba?" And I smiled and I nodded and I said, "Yes." And she said, "That's the best." Money. And I remember one time when I was in the city at a board meeting with some Baba lovers, Divana happened to be sitting in on it. And I think I was telling them this story. And when I got to the point where she said, you have a date with Baba, and that's the best. A couple of the men were like, you know, and Divana went, gentlemen, that's Avatar, Meher Baba. So that's the share for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marilyn. Oh, Roxy.
Jai Baba, everyone. I never had an honor to meet Mani in her body, but when I attended India last year in 2019, I was at Mirazad a lot, and somehow I would end up in Mani's little yard back there, and nobody would come there, and I would dance for a whole hour for her. And it was just so amazing. I would put my earpods on and just dance in that little yard. And I think it was for Baba and Mani. But I wanted to sing a Persian happy birthday song for her if you haven't done that already. And I hope can we sing in this form, Betty, or no?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to sing in Farsi. تولد تولد تولدت مبارک 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 تولدت مبارک لبت شاد و دلت خوش که پرخنده باشی بیا شمع رو فوت کن که 100 سال زنده باشی. Happy birthday, Mani. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Oh, thanks, Roxy. That was wonderful. We needed that. That's great. Ron's got more to say. You there, Ron?
Did you mention my name? Okay.
I did.
I thought of another story that I believe I heard it from Bao. And it was about Mani. And it really is about Mani as the type of, I wouldn't say type, but the Baba lover that she was. But Bao, my recollection is that was sitting outside Baba's room, waiting to probably be the night watchman or just be with Baba as Baba asked him to do. And inside Baba's room was Mara and Mani. And Baba was giving them a hard time about something. He was criticizing them, both of them, and very harshly. And I can only imagine, since there was only the two of them in there, I don't know that Erich was in there. I don't think Erich was in there. I think so. Maybe Mani was doing the interpretation of Baba's gestures, but whatever it was very harsh. I mean, Baba was laying it on thick. Apparently, he could do that rather well. And then he sent Mani to either give a message to or to get, I believe, Erich to either come to his room or to just give him a message. So when she walked out, Bao looked at her and could see the tears that had been on her face. And she transformed herself in front of him, not for him, but for Baba, so that she wouldn't be taking her own kind of feelings that she had just experienced with Baba and bring them to Erich to deliver this message. So she just basically dried her tears off and sort of became her normal buoyant self, just in moments. And that's probably not that easy to do, but she did it for Baba, and it sounds like an amazing thing that she was able to do that. Anyhow, that to me is just astounding. So, Jai Baba.
Thanks, Ron. That reminds me just quickly of our friend Jim Wilson, a fellow Oregonian, who is also on the Marijuana board. He told a quick story about Monty. He said, "You think she's so," as it's kind of on the same vein as Ron. She's so on top of it, so joyful and light spirit. But he said, he happened to see her getting out of a car. I think it might have been after a board meeting or some rather intense, something like that. And he said she was so dragged down. She looked so burdened and careworn. But she saw that there were Jim and I guess a few other Baba lovers there somewhere near the buses, and she just immediately changed the channel. She smiled and everything was good and it was fine. And he just happened to see that transformation happen. So yeah, she was a master. Anybody else? If you'd like to sing a song or it's all welcome. Ellen, hi. I look back and I think I should have more stories to tell. I just have this, I don't know, I probably wasn't as in my body as I should have been way back then. Yeah, I just have this kind of a feeling almost about this light, wonderful spirit who she joked with us a lot. She had this cupboard, nobody I don't think even mentioned the cupboard, with little wind-up toys. And that was her, you knew to bring our wind-up toy. That was her great pleasure, was playing with the kids and with the wind-up toys. Diana.
Jai Baba to you all. This isn't exactly a story, it's just a memory, something that happened with Mani. Way back when, and I don't know, I haven't been in India for so long, but in the early days, you had to take your bath in the morning because they had to heat up the water over the fire. And that's when they got you your hot water. So this one morning, I took my bath and I washed my hair, and we were going out to Marizad, stopping, of course, in the trust office, and Mani would be there greeting people. And when she greeted me and gave me a hug, she noticed that my hair, which had been, was wet. And I had long hair at that time, and I would tie it back and put it down in a braid. So when she hugged me, she could feel my braid was wet. And she says, no, you shouldn't do that. Go out in the sun, open your hair, let it dry. And I don't exactly remember how she said this, but she said Baba would not like it, that we would go out with wet hair. And so I've always thought about that. So I wanted to share that with you. And one other memory, really unusual, one day in Marizad, she was in Marizad that day. The first incident, of course, was when she was at the trust office. But you know how she would greet everybody and give everybody a hug. And we were in the veranda and she saw me, and I don't know if it was just a rival hug or a spontaneous hug, but she gave me a hug like no other, because not only did she hug me, but she kind of lowered her body, bending her legs, tilted back, and actually picked me up and held me over her for a hug. So she had my feet off the ground. It was kind of different. It was pretty special. Jai Baba.
Oh, wow, that's great.
I have one to share. Am I on? Okay, I guess I am.
You are, yeah.
All right. I don't remember much about all my trips to India, but this one just came through to me. I was with Mani and we were in the tin shed by the Samadhi, and she was showing me how to put the flowers up by Baba's pictures and around the tin shed, and showing me very carefully how you pick the flower and how it had to be perfect and how it had to go just in the right place. And that was so enchanting. It was just she and I. And she was showing me all this, and that was so sweet. So that's all.
Wow. they were.
Can't hear you, Betty.
That's my
I saw
memory.
your lips.
Thanks, Debbie. Mara as well. That's my memory. So detail was so important, and perfection was. Yeah, I remember that too, Anne. So Debbie, yes.
Yes, I wanted to piggyback on a few things I heard. I thought that Ron telling that story, which I love that story, and I had heard that before as well, brought up to me, and then what Jeff had said about peace and quiet. When you fall to pieces, keep quiet. Perfect for that story. That to me, what Mani exemplified, and totally, she was my hero about Shiro, is that she had the divine art of looking cheerful. And we could see that in the examples that had been mentioned, because I remember seeing her go into, with Mara, into the tomb for, we called it Ladies Arti. They'd come out twice a month. And seems like Mara would practically stagger out with like grief on her face. And when Mani would come out, there would be like this, almost a mask that I could see her put on, a mask of kind of like the stiff upper lip kind of thing when people are containing like a blank slate on their face. And she would just have that blank look on her face and those dark, dark penetrating eyes. And then she would stagger back a little and turn towards all of us that were sitting there in under the Samadhi portico or whatever you call it. And all of a sudden there would be, as if it was like, here was Mani, and then she saw all of us. You know, the smile went on, just what one of you had just said. I wanted to point that out. And then I wanted to say how much Betty, when Betty mentioned the wind-up toys, that reminded me of Mani, and how she would love all those, the shadow puppets and all that, and how she would entertain us so much that I like to say that now we are Baba's wind-up toys. So a lot of us are getting older. Maybe not you, but I'm getting older. Anyway, a lot of us are getting older. And I remember Mani would say when Jal Dastur came there to retire and then be a trustee, she goes, you know what retire means, don't you? And here again, she loves the play on words. You're not going to stop doing things. Baba is retiring you. He's putting more tread on your tires. So you're just going to keep going. So Baba is the one that has to wind up all of us, his little puppets and his wind up toys. And he's the one that has to put the more tread on our tires if he wants us to keep going. And I think Mani would like that analogy because she loved puppets and she loved those wind up toys. And when she was showing everybody, it would be like tick tock, tick tock, you know, and all of a sudden the little toy would practically fall off the edge of a table, and she would gently guide it to go back towards the center of the arena, the performance arena of the table. And then, in other words, to me, that analogy works that Baba's winding up his toys, he's having us dance or his puppets, but he's the one that will save us from falling off the edge. So I rest my case again. Jai Baba.
Thanks, Debbie. All right. Anybody else inspired by something somebody said? Or, I do have Cindy Lowe's. We played it in Artie. Cindy Lowe's song for Mani. So, and I think I may as well just play it again for those who'd like to see it again. Here we go.
Mani, sister of Marwan, a girl who had only one dream, Her wish to be with him always was granted when she was 14. Baba was more than her brother, her master, her lord, and her king. He and his beloved Mara, her all and everything. Her love is a song for the ages, a servant who chose to be bound, a sparkling star in the heavens above, a most beautiful jewel is found. The brightest star in the heavens, so close to the moon and the sun, a guiding light to the lovers of God, perfect and most fortunate one. Baba had joined her to Mara, by his wish they were never apart. She was the constant companion and friend to the queen of his heart. Her love is a song for the ages, a servant who chose to be bound, a sparkling star in the heavens above, the most beautiful jewel in his crown. Stay by his side and deserve him, her only wish or desire. Money that's gentle as flowers, her love much fiercer than fire. She always danced to his music, in silence or thundering sound. She danced right into his ocean and drank until she was drowned. Her love is a song for the ages, a servant who chose to be bound, a sparkling star in the heavens above, a most beautiful jewel in his crown. Her love is a song for the ages, a servant who chose to be bound, a sparkling star in the heavens above, a most beautiful jewel in his crown. A most beautiful jewel in his crown.
Oops, sorry.